In nearly every home, office, or warehouse, you'll find a label that reads Made in China. From electronics to textiles, toys to tools, China has earned its place as the manufacturing engine of the global economy. But how did this happen? Why is China still the default factory for the world? And why hasn't that changed, despite rising labor costs and growing geopolitical tensions? This video explores the real economics behind manufacturing in China, the structural, logistical, and policy-based reasons why so much of what we buy still comes from the same place. Let's begin by comparing labor costs to productivity, two forces that don't always move in the same direction. Much of China's manufacturing rise is often credited to cheap labor, and in the early 2000s, that reputation was well-earned. At the time, the average manufacturing wage in China was less than $1 per hour. For multinational companies, this made China an ideal place to scale production quickly and affordably. Fast forward to today, and the landscape looks very different. Average hourly wages for Chinese factory workers now hover around $6. That's not only higher than in Vietnam and Bangladesh, but also far above the average pay in newer industrial hubs like Ethiopia. So if cheaper labor is readily available elsewhere, why hasn't global manufacturing packed up and left China behind? The answer lies in what economists call labor productivity, how much economic output a worker generates per hour. According to data from the OECD and World Bank, Chinese workers are far more productive than their counterparts in lower-wage economies. Higher levels of education, more automation, modern infrastructure, and tightly managed logistics all contribute to that edge. Simply put, a Chinese worker earning $6 an hour can often produce more value than a $2 worker in another country. This means that while China may no longer offer the lowest wages, its factories can still deliver competitive or even superior cost efficiency. That's why many companies continue to rely on Chinese production, even as other regions try to attract investment through cheaper labor alone. The productivity gap, not just the wage gap, helps explain why China remains a central player in global manufacturing. Now let's explore how China's infrastructure and logistics networks make exporting faster and cheaper. China has invested heavily in infrastructure to support its export economy. The country operates the world's largest network of high-speed rail, over 100,000 kilometers of expressways, and several of the busiest seaports on Earth. The port of Shanghai alone handled more than 47 million 20-foot equivalent units, or TEUs, in 2023. Crucially, these logistics systems are deeply integrated. A container can move from an inland factory in Chengdu to a cargo ship in Shenzhen with minimal friction. This logistical efficiency cuts costs, improves delivery times, and makes Chinese exports more attractive. For comparison, the World Bank's Logistics Performance Index consistently ranks China ahead of many emerging economies when it comes to infrastructure and shipment reliability. Now that we've covered logistics, let's explore how special economic zones and policy incentives fueled China's manufacturing boom. Much of China's manufacturing dominance can be traced back to policy, specifically the creation of special economic zones, or SEZs. The first SEZs, established in the early 1980s, offered tax incentives, simplified customs procedures, and relaxed labor laws to attract foreign investment. These zones were strategically located near ports and urban centers, such as Shenzhen, Xiamen, and Zhuhai. Today, SEZs and free trade zones span the country. They continue to offer preferential treatment to exporters, from VAT rebates to faster customs clearance through systems like China's single-window platform. These policy mechanisms reduce the cost and complexity of exporting goods, reinforcing China's role as a global supplier. Let me now show you how supplier ecosystems and manufacturing clusters eliminate delays and reduce friction in production. Perhaps the most overlooked reason for China's manufacturing dominance is the maturity of its industrial ecosystems. In places like Shenzhen, entire supply chains are condensed into single districts. A smartphone manufacturer can source printed circuit boards, lithium-ion batteries, camera modules, and plastic casings, all within a few kilometers. Suppliers, contract manufacturers, logistics firms, and testing labs operate in tightly integrated clusters. This level of vertical integration reduces lead times, lowers coordination costs, and allows for real-time troubleshooting and iteration. It's a scale of efficiency that no emerging competitor has yet matched. A similar clustering effect exists in other regions: textile manufacturing in Guangdong, toy production in Dongguan, and small commodity trading in Yiwu, a city that reportedly supplies over 60% of the world's Christmas decorations. Now that we've seen how production happens, let's explore the ripple effect through global dependency and trade patterns. China's dominance isn't just economic, it's structural. The global economy has adapted around Chinese manufacturing. The United Kingdom, for example, imports over 50 billion pounds worth of goods from China annually. That includes everything from personal electronics and furniture to automotive parts and industrial components. The widespread use of Incoterms such as FOB, free on board, and DDP, delivered duty paid, allows UK-based companies to order goods with minimal friction, letting Chinese suppliers handle most of the export formalities. Moreover, standardized systems like harmonized system codes, commercial invoices, and digitalized bills of lading simplify customs processing between China and international markets. According to data from UNCTAD and the Freightos Baltic Index, even when shipping rates spike, such as during the COVID-19 pandemic, the scale and reliability of Chinese production keep it economically viable. After everything we've seen, it's worth asking, is manufacturing leaving China, or are we still deeply tied to it? There is growing interest in diversifying supply chains. Companies are exploring what's known as the China Plus One strategy, sourcing additional suppliers in Southeast Asia or Latin America. However, shifting large-scale manufacturing out of China is difficult. The absence of robust infrastructure, complex ecosystems, and reliable logistics in alternative locations means that most companies still rely on China for critical components, even if final assembly happens elsewhere. In many cases, what appears to be reshoring or diversification still depends on Chinese parts, a reflection of how deeply integrated China remains in global manufacturing. China's manufacturing dominance isn't just about cheap labor. It's the result of decades of coordinated development, efficient logistics, smart policy, and global trade integration. As supply chains evolve, China will remain central, not because it is the cheapest, but because it is the most complete. If you found this breakdown helpful, consider subscribing for more videos on supply chains, global trade, and logistics. Thank you for watching.